Chop need to be live. My hair so chopped. Niggas need to be live. Like niggas need to see me. Shit.
Oh, there we go.
What try to say?
Niggas put Sane, Alton, and
Ah, you really
I
seen
saw that.
it? Yeah, man. Three
Yeah,
generations.
look at Sane. Hell no.
Three generations, dudes, for real. Excuse
I
me.
gotta figure out the grading system. I'm just gonna have to go off the dome.
Hmm.
You want to just do the one for me, and I do the one for you. That way,
Yeah,
okay, we got three guys in here. We could probably go ahead and get going.
let's do it.
All right, welcome, fellas, to the off-season grades for
What
year
up? What
two.
up?
We got Carlock on the broadcast.
Yo, 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 what it do?
Um,
What it do?
champion, last year's champ.
Who, me?
What?
You so I didn't know
Last
you.
year's champ. So this idea, we got this idea from based on Carlock's commentary that he do throughout the playoffs and end of the year. So I feel like it'll be easy to do these breakdowns on the call, on the broadcast, so people can really know what's going through the brains when we doing these. So I'm just gonna go through orders. So right now we on the salary cap breakdown screen, and I'm gonna just go through the orders of the teams. So the first team up, Carlock, is the Chicago Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just go through who they added this year. So they
All
added
right, let's do
Colin
it.
Sexton, signed
Mm-hmm.
Colin Sexton to a 4 year deal, 80 plus mil.
Mm-hmm.
Sexton, 23 years old, 82 overall. Good player overall. With that though, he also signed Devin Chizo to a 3 year deal. That looks
Good
like,
pickup.
yep, that was a good pickup. 54 mil, all guaranteed. So he lost Zach Levine, and we'll talk about that later.
Mm.
But he did lose
Mm-hmm.
Zach Levine, who was made the game-winning dunk in the conference finals or in the
That he did.
semifinals to get to the conference
Semifinals for
finals.
sure.
So Levine is a key guy. The Bulls lost, so it'll be interesting to see how Sexton and Devin Chizo make up for that. He also lost another key player, another starting five with Wendell Carter.
Mm-hmm.
Wendell Carter, he's still looking to find a home, but he replaced Wendell with Mo Wagner. Mo
Mm-hmm.
Wagner gives him more of a stretch big. He has an 84 open three.
Mm-hmm.
Mo Wagner, he averaged 20 with him right now coming out the gate. But Mo
Mm-hmm.
Wagner was a guy that Washington had, who we're going to talk about later, but he signed Mo Wagner to a 2 year deal. I think the biggest reason Levine left was because of Brandon Boston. So it looks like
Mm-hmm.
he's looking for Brandon Boston to take that leadership role as the two guard, for their team.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that, Levine was his biggest miss, Wendell as well, and he added guys like Josh Hart to fill out the rest of his team.
Mm-hmm.
You got anything to add to that, Colin, before
Yeah, I
we get a
mean,
grade?
reality of it. Yeah, the reality of it is this, man. You lost. The Bulls lost a two-time All-Star in Zach Levine, former dunk contest champion. I mean, but at the end of the day, he drafted somebody who played the same position as he did, Brandon Boston. And at this point, Brandon Boston, the way he actually in certain games, especially in the conference finals when they played against the New York Knicks, Brandon Boston was really the one that was carrying them to even stay competitive in the game, and Zach Levine was kind of taking a back seat. So I think Zach Levine wants to have somebody that is more of a compliment to him. I think he gets that more in Memphis, playing next to Ja, and a guy who's going to more of a playmaking guard. Kobe White was pretty solid for him, but I think Colin Sexton is definitely an upgrade over Kobe White and he'll be their second unit point guard. Colin Sexton had an amazing year last year with the Cleveland Cavaliers, averaging 27, 6, and 4, and 2 steals. But he also was in a similar position. He played two guard a lot last year, so he was doing, and being 6'1", 190 pounds, as tough as he is, that was a mismatch for him in Cleveland every night. So him actually getting to play his natural position at point guard, and then can him and Colin Sexton and Brandon Boston really complement each other. But I think my favorite signing, honestly, is Dante DiVincenzo. I mean, coming from the Milwaukee Bucks, outside of last year, they've been in playoff contention multiple years. He's been, he won on multiple levels. He's been to multiple playoff appearances with Milwaukee since he came there as a rookie. Of course, we know he did at Villanova. And to see what he's doing now, I think playing Chicago, because I think he might be the sixth man for them, but I can also see him being the guy that finishes games. I can definitely see them a Sexton, DiVincenzo, Brandon Boston type of lineup, because Brandon Boston, even though he is a two, he plays a lot of small forward for them. So I think that's going to be good. My biggest concern is losing Wendell Carter, his physical presence in the post. I think Mo Wagner, granted, he had a great game, his first game in Chicago. However, he's not the best rebounder. Statistically, he's not. I mean, but he's telling me to shut up and hold my beer after the first game. Yeah, having 19 boards. But I know from a spacing standpoint, he provides a lot of spacing for them. By being able to be a high volume 3-point shooter. And he's extremely quick and agile for a big, even though, I mean, he's very fast, so he'll be able to really help them play more of an up-tempo style of basketball. And I think that'd be good for him. So I think that was a good pickup. So we'll see how the Chicago Bulls do. I mean, coming off that conference finals appearance, and, I definitely think they have room to grow. I think they're in a better position after making that Andrew Wiggins blunder last year. I think he bounced back pretty well with it. So.
Yep. So, grade. So if we had to give a Chicago Bulls grade, the grade I'm gonna give him. And one thing I also have to factor in, he's gonna be a cap space team next year. I think he's gonna have about 30 plus mil with Christian Wood coming out, but he also got Kobe White, guys like that. He's gonna have to make a decision on, which he may not need at this point with Sexton and DiVincenzo.
Not to mention that 11.21 million he got to pay Andrew Wiggins to play for another team.
Right. That's 11.2 he didn't even need. So right. So overall, considering he lost Zach LaVine straight up, and at the end of the day, he replaced them with two, starting level players. I'm gonna give him a B right now. He didn't have no draft, and he didn't get nobody in the draft. So overall offseason grade a B. Considering what happened, really, I guess it wasn't his fault, but I think LaVine saw Boston there, so I'll give him a B.
Yeah.
You got a grade?
Honestly, yeah, I got a grade for him. I honestly give him a B minus. I gotta throw the minus in there just because Zach LaVine, what he brings to the table, is absolutely amazing. But I do like the replacements. Do I think they'll be as consistent or as dominant as Zach LaVine was in certain games? No, but I do think that for what he lost, he did balance his team out pretty well. I think he is in a pretty solid position going into this offseason. We'll see how this season plays out. So I give him a B minus. I think he did pretty decent.
Mike said, "Damn, call like you tough." All right. So next team up, the Cleveland Cavaliers. So this is the team that lost Sexton. But this team had an interesting offseason, though. So we're going to go through them. So we're going to start off with the big signing, Jimmy Butler. At 33 years old, he did sign Jimmy Butler, who is still a 91 today. But he signed to a 3+1 deal, final year being a team option. This is probably equating to about 120 guaranteed and possibly 160 if he decides, which Jimmy Butler could potentially be making 43 mil at 36 years old. So we'll see how that. So it's a risky signing for Cleveland, but I liked it because Jimmy Butler brings a different defense to your team. This is a guy that overall his badges, he got Hall of Fame interceptor, Hall of Fame pick dodger, gold ankle braces, gold clamps, gold defensive leader, gold heart crusher, gold trapper, gold talent. Like he one of the best defenders on the game. So considering, at the end of the day, Kawhi won a title. Buddy Hield, one of the hardest players to stop in this joint. You got the Ja Morants, you got the Zach LaVines, you got all these different, you got the Zions, you got all these guys. Jimmy Butler can guard all of them. So I think at the end of the day, I don't think he's going to worry as much about this Um, I don't think he's going to worry much about this in the long run. But we'll have to see how he's feeling about next year and how he may decline, may or may not decline. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Add Covington. He also added Robert Covington, who was
Mm-hmm.
formerly on the Grizzlies last year. And Covington's another guy, good defensive player. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if he's going to start him as a three or bring him off the bench, but that's another 6'8", 6'7" defensive player he could bring in, and lock those guys up. Um,
Absolutely.
Garland looks like he's giving Garland the keys as his point guard with Sexton leaving. He also added Aaron Gordon as well, who I think is a pretty solid contributor. He was a big
Absolutely.
contributor in Game 7 against the Pelicans for Portland last year. So I really like his game for with Aaron Gordon as well. He also got Jaden Springer from the first draft, his first rookie he drafted. And
Mm-hmm.
I think Springer gonna be nice for him. He was doing some work with Springer last year, so
Mm-hmm.
and I think overall his team defensively he's gonna be one of the better defensive teams out there. So
Mm-hmm.
the only concern I got is the Jimmy Butler contract long term, but it may not end up affecting him in the long run if he can manage the rest of his team right.
Mm-hmm. I got you. I got you. I honestly, Cleveland Cavaliers had a very interesting offseason for me because I look at it last year. I mean, you had a six man and Willie Cauley Stein who really was playing behind Drummond. They were really similar in what they brought to the game, and I think that they lost him in free agency, but at the same time. What he gained in free agency, I think, is more balance for his team longevity. He got put out, like I said, last year in the second round, but looking at his overall team, like you said, you pretty much replaced Colin Sexton with Jimmy Butler. Regardless of what anybody, no matter how great Colin Sexton was, like I said, he was an undersized two guard playing out of position. Jimmy Butler being able to play that 2-3 role for them and bring that defensive intensity and going all in for that, I think you gain a true leader in your locker room who's going to make everybody play differently. I think he's going to complement them well. I also add Robert Covington, another veteran, and can come in, can play multiple positions, can guard multiple positions, complement them great. And I think he's going to be uh, great influence of the Isaac Okoro, both of those guys. I think they'll really be able to complement him well. He came in the league as a defender and was kind of struggling offensively so far in this my league, but it seems like I think that he'll be able to really learn from them and have a better season this season playing off the behind the bench behind those two guys. But my favorite signing honestly was Aaron Gordon. Outside of Jimmy Butler because, like you said, Aaron Gordon, that athletic form, you replace Kevin Love, who pretty much was a shell of himself at this point in his career. And to get him and Amari Spellman a stretch four behind him who can really shoot the ball, really underrated four man at Young. But Aaron Gordon, I mean, he great like you said, can't say enough. He gave the Knicks problems in the finals. He definitely gave the Pelicans problems. And to come in, I think he can really fit them long term and give them a guy that complements Andre Drummond very well. They can kind of run their four out, one in type of offense. So I think it's going to be a good compliment. So I'm actually expecting big things from the Cleveland Cavaliers this year 'cause I think he has a better balanced team than what he had last year. And I think
Hmm.
that's going to be more of a benefit. Even though he lost Tarian Prince, Sexton, and College Stein, what he gained in Gordon,
Hmm.
Jimmy Butler, and Robert Covington, I think that offsets it and exceeds it by far.
I agree. So I mean, if I had to give him a grade, I got to give him a higher grade than we gave the Bulls.
Mm-hmm.
So just going off he lost Sexton, added Butler. He lost Colin Stein, lost Sexton, added Butler, added Covington, added Gordon. I mean, overall he added Cantor. Overall he had a really good offseason. I'm balancing right
Mm-hmm.
now between a B plus and probably a B plus and an A minus. I think an A minus
Mm-hmm.
is probable. I like the A minus. A B plus or B just because I'm concerned on the Jimmy Butler contract. But
Okay.
so B plus, A minus. What's your grade?
Honestly, I'm going to go B plus. I'm going B plus. Just from a standpoint of last year, like I said, Jimmy Butler had a great year. I mean, they really underachieved. They were one of the worst teams in the league last year. And Jimmy Butler, 33 years old. So hopefully he can kind of go ahead and be what we want him to be or expect him to be. So far, he's having a pretty solid year. But like you said, to be having that type of contract long term, they did get older. With adding Jimmy Butler and Robert Covington and
Hmm.
Corey Joseph and Ennis Cantor, who we didn't talk about. So they added four new guys who are pretty much at the end of their prime at best. So hopefully Jimmy Butler got a couple more years in him to be solid, but I'm gonna give him still a B plus, better than the Bulls, but not as good as your A minus. But we're gonna take it from there.
Okay.
It's all about the
Next,
playoffs with Jimmy Butler.
yep. Next up, we got the Grizzlies. So you want to run through them, or you want to skip and go to the Hawks?
Um, I get the Grizzlies. It ain't gonna take me long. It ain't gonna take. I got the Grizzlies. So pretty much you
Uh,
can stay on them. You can. I see. I'm watching your screen. The Grizzlies for me honestly had a great offseason. And the reason why I said they had a great offseason, I mean, for them to lose Duncan Robinson, who was a shooter, but at the same time, he really brought nothing else to their team outside of outside shooting, which is honestly what he brings to the NBA, nothing but outside shooting. Not a great defender, and he complimented Ja from a standpoint of being able to shoot the three ball, but if his three won't fall, and him and Ja was a defensive liability in their backcourt. So to go ahead and replace that with Zach LaVine, pretty much a three-level scorer, I definitely think that that's a situation to where they definitely won from an age standpoint. He kind of fixed the trajectory. Memphis has been linked against Zach LaVine for a minute, and Atlanta in free agency after coming off a conference finals appearance. But for all the reasons on why he chose to leave and find something kind of more balanced to him, I respect it. Not in addition, former Finals MVP Eric Bledsoe. Huge acquisition. Pretty much get him on a 1+1 deal with their team option. That keeps some flexibility for next year, seeing the fact that he has to resign the Memphis Grizzlies have to resign Ja Morant after this year. And we all know there's gonna be a max contract. So to be able to have Eric Bledsoe to play behind Ja and also can play next to Ja as well. He had was shipped to Dallas in order to get KP, but to find a home in Memphis, being from Alabama, not far right up the road, played college ball in Kentucky, was close to playing ball in Memphis, Calipari would have stayed. So the fact that he's here in this environment, and then I think he definitely brings a different type of presence because he's a veteran point guard at this point, and I think it'll be a good fit for him. And then in addition to that, Thibault, one of the best defenders in the league, to be able to have a top 10 pick in this draft and turn that top 10 pick into one of the best defenders in the draft to complement what you have right now in Zach LaVine and Ja and Jaren, I think that's absolutely huge to have a guy who's just gonna go in there and say who just sick him. And I think Thibault is that sick him type of player. Definitely the best defender we had since Tony Allen in Memphis. So I think that's gonna be a good fit. While also holding on to Brandon Clark and Moses Moody. So he got a lot of young talent. Jay McDaniels is also a good low key sign up. He's one of them guys. You see potential, but we don't know exactly how that's going to blossom. But I also think one thing about the Zach LaVine is to get him at that price is amazing. To get him on a 4-year deal, and one thing about these contracts, they all line up to expire in 25, 26. So the fact that you have Jaren being 27, Zach LaVine being like 31, Mo Bamba being 28, and they all expire the same year keeps your flexibility going, and they're all on good contracts. And so at that point after this season, you'll probably only have Jaden and maybe John, maybe Thibault, and maybe Brandon Clark if he can bring all those guys back. So that's definitely going to give some more flexibility going forward. So I think the team is very depth-wise is balanced, and I think the low-key, Jaren and Bamba had suitors, you was able to keep both of them. So to be able to keep two of your three front court guys and just let Marvin Bagley go, who got a nice little contract, but to kind of keep your core guys, and I think Jaren is playing more center this year, which is it's going to take him about 4 or 5 years to get to that point in his career, and he's there now. I think that's definitely going to be a compliment where he's playing a lot of 5, but starting at the 4, but playing a lot of center this year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do. So for the Memphis Grizzlies to have got to the conference finals last year and lose, I definitely think that they're going to be even a more tougher out this year. And it keeps flexibility because next year, right now you got about 40 million, and right now you're not even a luxury tax team with this team. Like you're about 2.76 million away from luxury tax, so you still got a little wiggle room to play with, to do whatever and add some young talent. We know this is the last year you're gonna have some money because Jock got to be re-signed, Nikhil, Thibault, Clark. So this is it. This do or die. This the core. So we're gonna see how this core do for the next couple of years.
Okay. What's your grade?
Oh man, I'm gonna keep it honest with you. If I got to give you a grade, I'm going to give you because literally you lost Duncan Robinson, Desmond Bain, and Marvin Bagley, but you gained Zach LaVine, Eric Bledsoe, and Thibault. So with it, I ain't gonna lie, I gotta get it an A minus. I gotta get it an A minus.
Okay. Okay.
Gotta give you an A minus. Yeah,
Okay.
that was solid. That was solid.
Okay. Next up, we got the Atlanta Hawks.
Do
This
they
is
have
a
to?
team. This is a team that overall, this team has a ton of depth. This team has the first Solo said A minus question mark question mark question mark. These grades are
Mm-hmm.
rigged. Folks, all right, so the Hawks have came so they came up short year one. This was a team that came up short year one. Uh, Reasonably so. I mean, the Hawks are struggling right now in real life in a way, but they're in playoff
Mm-hmm.
position.
Mm-hmm.
This team though, so this is a team they made a trade for Siakam at power forward. He's a power forward. Siakam has a history with this GM. Siakam though, however, has been underperforming since he's been in Atlanta. He averaged 21
Mm-hmm.
in Toronto, but he's averaging 15 in Atlanta right now, as of last year.
Jesus Christ.
Um, I, and then before that, and then also with that, they were able to re-sign Trey Young. Trey Young, they re-signed him to a max deal, 4-year deal, player option in the final year. So that's a given. However, they're going to have to figure out how to utilize Trey Young this year. Trey Young at this point, he averaging 24 last year, 6 assists, but he's shooting 23% from three, 40% from the field. The year before that, in year one, he shot 22% from three, 38% from the field. Trey and K, like he has K, who's another stud, but he's gonna have to figure out. He's gonna have to make a decision. Either Trey's gonna have to get better in year three, or he's gonna have to probably move on from Trey. Like Trey, at this point, he's not producing the way he should be as a 90, 91 overall. Um, However, Trey has more weapons around him too, and this may open up opportunity for some of the other guys on this team. They were able to draft um, Paolo Banchero from Duke with the
Mm-hmm.
second pick
Mm-hmm.
in last year's draft. Paolo Banchero is a pretty solid prospect overall. He has a little mid-range shot. If you had to give him a player comparison, he's probably a little bit like Boozer in a way. He's 6'9", 250. Good size, good strength overall. Can shoot the mid range. Okay defensively. And a good defensive rebounder. So pretty solid pickup. That's easy. Possible Siakam replacement. Or he could back up Siakam at this point. And then you got Patrick Baldwin, who I think is probably a better prospect than Banchero. And Baldwin is a key piece. I mean, it's hard to knock him. He's 6'10", a 3'4", can shoot, can handle the ball. He can do a lot of different things. So at the end of the day, that's a solid piece to add, with Cade Cunningham, Trey, Capella, Reddish, all the guys he got. Now, but the issue is he's going to run into an issue. Capella's a free agent next year. Um, Reddish is a free agent next year. Those are two key guys that he could potentially lose. He lost Herter last offseason. He already lost Kevin Herter, who I forgot where Kevin Herter went, but we can check it out. But Kevin Herter, he lost Kevin Herter. So at this point, um, it's time for this team to perform. I think this it's time. This team had a good offseason overall, but it's time to see them make a strong playoff push at this point. The team has probably some of the best depth on the game, I would think. And K is coming off of a big year where he was averaging almost 30 a game. But I think the shooting from Trey Young's gonna have to get better. Um, Reddish is gonna have to. He's gonna have to figure out something with Reddish. He's gonna have to figure out something with getting Patrick Baldwin more involved as a young rookie. He can go any direction at this point, but I think it's time for this team as constructed to play basketball. I don't think it's the team. It's time for the team. It's not the team roster construction. Team roster construction is fine, but it's time for this team to play basketball. So I think it's playoffs or bust for Atlanta this year. You can go ahead, call up.
Okay, see, I like how you took a nice approach. I'm gonna be a little bit more direct. You're underachieving, okay? You're straight up BSing. Ain't nobody got time. Ain't nobody time about holding nobody damn hand. At the end of the day, this is one of the best young teams in the entire association. You can argue that this is literally any user. probably will say, man, if I can get this Atlanta Hawks team, I'm gonna take it in consideration. If you ain't gonna do it, you definitely gonna think about it because you got Trey Damn Young at the one, shooting 22% with 12 shooting badges. He got Hall of Fame clutch shooter, Hall of Fame D3s, Hall of Fame tireless shooters, goal catch and shoot, but you shooting 22%? Ain't no damn excuse. No, I'm not doing it. Ain't no excuse. Ain't no validating nothing. You either shit the boy out of there, find him a new damn home, or figure out how to use him. Siakam, okay, whatever. This ain't the barrel of Siakam, 80 points Siakam, okay, whatever the case may be. But 14 points a game? 14? That's ridiculous. We know what you can do with Cade Cunningham, 29.7 rebounds, 3 assists. That's fine. Solid. But you're shooting 27% from 3 from him. This shit gonna be your starting shooting guard. He need to be a damn point guard. He need to trade Trey Young, get the hell out of here. Capella, okay, boom, we know he can play. But you got Cam Reddish, Bonchero. You got damn Baldwin Jr. And then you talking about damn Carlos Boozer. You don't take Carlos Boozer number 2 overall pick, but Baldwin Jr. gonna be MPJ. They took him at 14 because he's slid for a reason. If you don't utilize this boy right and to complement this damn team, we gonna have an issue. It don't make no damn sense to have this much talent and your ass can't win 15 games. Put up or shut up. Continue, Diz.
So grade as far as off-season grade, Hawks, they gonna get I would say the Hawks. I mean, it was the computer Hawks that handled it. So I don't know. I give them a B. I give them a B. I give them a B plus.
I'm giving. Okay,
I give them
B plus. I'm giving. Go ahead.
Because I think they had a good offseason. The question ain't the talent. Like I said, the question ain't the talent. The question is what's going on. Niggas crazy on this show. They go no, it's not the talent. It's the play. So they're gonna have to step up and play. So I just go with a B. Let's just go with a B.
Okay. You going with a B. I'm going with an F because the motherfucker didn't show up. If he would have had his ass here, none of this would have happened. Okay? Bonchero wouldn't have been there. Baldwin Jr. wouldn't have been there. So he failing because your ass didn't show up. You need to be around. Play your games. Ain't no excuses. I ain't got time to be holding nobody damn man. F. You failed because you wasn't there. Thank the computer. Computer get a damn A. The user get an F. Next.
All right, next we got them Charlotte Hornets.
Ooh,
them Charlotte Hornets. Now
okay,
this is a team they had one of the better. They had a lot of turnaround, but they had one of the better off season too. They went to work in free agency. They went to work in free. They also made a big trade. They made a big key trade for Klay Thompson. They moved on from Gordon Hayward. They also, who else they moved on from, Carla? Let me go to this transaction report.
Yeah. I know Gordon Hayward, Julius Randle.
So they moved Gordon Hayward, Julius Randle to the Clippers, Keontae Johnson to the Clippers, Klay Thompson to the Hornets, Luke Kennard to the Warriors. So, but we can go through who this team signed. They had a busy offseason. Miles Leonard, he returned. Jonas Valanciunas, 2-year deal, $15 million. Chris Boucher, 2-year deal, $13.3 million. Gary Harris, Alonzo Trier, he brought him back. Tony Snell on a minimum deal. Kai Jones, who he stole from the Hawks, and the Hawks cut him. Kai Jones, who's currently, I think he's averaging 24 right now, from last I checked. So they signed a lot of guys. They got a lot of guys. They waived Luke Cornett, which was something I just found out recently. So I didn't know Luke Cornett was waived, but they have a lot of bigs on their roster. So we're going to talk a little bit about what they did. They kept Kevin Porter Jr. They still have Kelly Oubre under contract, guaranteed this year, next year. They still got LaMelo Ball, who's, of course, the star of this team. JV's going to be a nice fit there from a post-game rebounding perspective. Boucher, he good defensively around the rim. And then he kept his shooter, Trier, around as well. He still got Myers Leonard, McDaniels. So overall, I mean, the Hornets, they had a lot of turnaround. And I think overall, going from finals in year one, then getting to year two and losing in the playoffs the way they did, and then seeing that they're one of their rival teams coming away with the title year two, motivated the Hornets to make a strong push in the offseason to get what they needed. So pairing LaMelo up with Klay is going to be a nice little look. I like that. And he's also in position to possibly have, a good amount of money for next offseason too, which could be really interesting. So, what's your thoughts, Carla?
Honestly, I honestly like what the Charlotte Hornets did. I mean, after losing in the second round and and coming up short like that. But at the end of the day, turning around and kind of adding shooting to a team that already had solid shooters. I mean, you pretty much update Gordon Hayward from Klay Thompson. He was able to bring back Alonzo Trier, who I thought definitely would have been gone in free agency, and got him on one of the more friendly contracts at pretty much 3 year, $10 million deals, and definitely was one of their best shooters last year. He's struggling so far this season, but I definitely expect him to bounce back. Um, and to be able to kind of add that, Valanciunas is definitely a situation. You replace Luke Kornet with Valanciunas, that's an A plus all day. Because Luke Kornet was just probably one of the worst rotation centers in the league last year. So to give Valanciunas great rebounder, can score on the post, can also shoot a little bit, I think that's a good thing to kind of complement. Now, Julius Randle was a huge uh, piece for them last year. I think he played very well, but his stint was extremely short. Pretty much this is his third team in 3 years in my league. From the Knicks to the Spurs, Spurs to the Hornets, and I'm sorry, fourth team, because now he's going to the Clippers. So he's kind of been like a toss judge in the league so far. But I'm curious to see how he plays because we know that the Hornets like to play small ball. So if you see the way this roster is constructed, it's definitely going to be kind of five out as they like to play. But at the same time, defensively, outside of I think that's going to be a huge issue for them is perimeter defense. You got Lonzo, but Klay Thompson is not the Klay Thompson of old as far as elite defensively. I don't expect him to go out there locking out other teams' best players. I think he's solid. We know he can shoot, but I don't know if his mobility will be there effectively. I mean, he got like bronze clamps, and it's bronze this, but at the end, I don't think he's the elite 3 and D guy. So I think they'll be able to score with the best of them, but stopping guys, I think that's going to be an issue for them going out throughout the season. I don't know if Clay's playing two. I don't know if he's playing small forward. I'm sure based off something he said in the press conference that he'll finish games with Sure and Clay and Lonzo. I don't know what the hell that's going to be perimeter defense-wise, but if that's what you want to roll with, then I think that'll be fine. But overall, I honestly think as far as the acquisitions and the way that the Charlotte Hornets want to play their style of basketball, I think he had a great offseason. I ain't going to lie to you. That's my only
Okay.
concern is his perimeter defense.
Okay. Okay. Overall, I give him an A- grade wise. Uh, I think he I don't think he got worse. I know that much. I think he got better. I think
Yeah.
LaMelo is gonna be, on another level this year too. Kai Jones, he may find a way to. I think he already a problem right now. I'm looking at him averaging 24 a game, um, 97 drive and dunk. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he going. I mean, it's gonna be an interesting team. I think he's gonna be one of the teams in the East to look out for. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I definitely think he has. I think he has enough talent in the East to definitely get to the conference finals, but also have a chance to get to the finals. Like, I mean, he's been to the finals the first year. Came up short the second round next year, and we'll see what happens this upcoming year. So we'll see what happens.
Okay. Great. What's your grade?
I'm
Hornets
gonna give
grade.
him a B plus.
B plus. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Cool. All right. Next up, we got your New York Knickerbockers.
Okay,
So,
that's all you there, dog.
yep. So I'll run back with the Knicks. Um, the top three guys: Kawhi, Booker, Mitchell Robinson. Them guys didn't move. Though he was able to keep Mitchell Robinson on a long term deal, on a 5 year deal, locked him in long term for about 100 mil. See how much that was. I
Mm-hmm.
like that. Come on. Let's
Mm-hmm.
see. Mitchell
It's a
Robinson,
friendly deal.
5 year, 116 mil deal. Mitchell Robinson was
That ain't nothing wrong.
key in that championship run. Probably one of the keys. Probably right behind Kawhi. You could argue is
Mm-hmm.
the second most key player in that championship series against Portland. He also
Mm-hmm.
brought in Tarian Prince on a 2 year, 3.5 mil deal. Friendly. Willie Cauley Stein, former six man of the year, got him on 2 year, 3.5 mil. Former six man of the year. So when Mitchell Robinson comes out, he's rolling with Willie Cauley Stein, who, in my opinion, is shoot, he probably is just as good, from a defensive perspective, rebounding perspective, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So having Willie Cauley Stein going against a lot of backup bigs is going to be huge for him. He also signed Al Horford, Joe Ingles, Spencer Dinwiddie.
That's computer shit.
So Spencer Dinwiddie is another key acquisition.
Mm-hmm.
Spencer Dinwiddie came from the Nets, who were, he's had a lot of battles with. That's going to be a nice pickup for him. And he signed two rookies too. in free agency to long-term deals, who could come in handy for him in the long run. But this was a team. They didn't necessarily have to make a lot of moves. What they needed was to bring their core guys back. They also was able to make a trade. They made a deal, they made a deal in the offseason to bring in DeAnthony Melton too, who, let's see, go back. I hate this menu. They made another deal to get DeAnthony Melton in, who brings in another defender for him. I think that adds another different piece to the puzzle when Kawhi's out the game. He can throw DeAnthony Melton on guys. He's an 81, 6'2", 88 perimeter defense. Has some good defensive badges as well. So I think overall you can put him next to Quickly at times. You can play him at the one sometimes with Booker and Kawhi. It's a lot of different things he can do there. You also bring in Thonmaker back, one of the most controversial players that we talked about in the past. He brought Thonmaker back, who's going to play a lot of the backup 4 minutes. Obi Toppin, who's been a key contributor on this team over the first couple of years, he's coming back as well and new and improved. So I think right now, as of today, the team has gotten much better than they were last year. They added better depth. And the question is whether or not they're going to have a lot of people going after them this year. Considering they winners of the title, they're defending champions. A lot of people are going to be targeting them. You have a lot of teams that made some big moves to target the Knicks. So this will probably be the most eyes, most viewed. Kind of like you bring in the viewers. So come next user game, you're gonna probably have a lot of views to see them championship Knicks coming out there and playing. But overall, I gotta give them I'll give you the Knicks a A, just because that's the best. That's the best grade I think we gave it so far. We gave it out a few A minuses, but I give him an A just because, for one, he brought the team back. He didn't need to really change anything, but he did make them better, and that's coming off the title too. The users asking when would their first user game be, called out? You got to give them the answer.
The first user game will be played in 2021 in April.
Oh, call out. Not the Kyrie response.
Hey, no, if Jeremy available this evening, we're gonna play our first game today.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
CK said, "Boy, at the top of my schedule." Any comment?
No. We're about to talk about the Nuggets in just a second. My comment.
All right, so we got the Magic, the Orlando Magic. This is a team had some struggles in year one. I mean, they were pretty bad in year one, but they made some big improvements. They had the number 2 pick in year one and drafted Zaire Williams, who had a big rookie year for him. He averaged 18 points a game, 5 boards. So that was a key piece to bring back under his rookie contract. This was also a team they made a trade to get C.J. McCollum in year 2, and he helped boost their overall record last year too. Last year he averaged 32 a game, 42% from 3. He was a solid player for him. So now today, from an offseason perspective, they went after a lot of shooters. They needed shooting. Offense was a struggle for Orlando. I think defensively they were decent at times. They got a defensive player of the year potential guy in Isaac, who can help man. Defensively. They also have Zaire Williams, who a 6'8" 2 guard, /3, who's going to be able to defend. But what they really needed was some outside shooting. So they added Seth Curry, who was cut by Boston. He was cut by Boston, and he was left out there to be signed in free agency. So he was able to sign Seth Curry to a 1-year deal, $8.5 million, to give Seth time to work things out in Orlando and hopefully push them to a playoff berth. He also signed Gallinari, a guy who was formerly on Atlanta. That's another guy Atlanta lost. I forgot to bring up. But 6'10", can play both forward spots, 82 3-ball, 90 free throw. He also got some good shooting badges as well. So it's going to be interesting to see those guys integrated with guys like Vucevic, another year with Williams, Markelle Fultz, Isaac, CJ. Offensively, this team should be pretty good. And this team was right outside the playoffs looking in last year in the 9th spot. So I expect with the improvements that they made, that they should be able to get into the playoffs this year. Thoughts, Colin?
I agree, man. I honestly, Orlando Magic are one of my favorite young teams in the league. Seeing the fact that this is a new user who came in and really wasn't successful at all, was on pace with the Atlanta Hawks, and then honestly has surpassed the Atlanta Hawks as far as it relates to sustainability and being able to adjust and get better at the game. So I respect that holistically, and I honestly think that he had a pretty good offseason to be able to bring in, surround his team with shooting. We know having Isaac, Vucci, CJ, and Zaire Williams, them pretty much his core guys at this point. And to be able to kind of pretty much run it back for the most part, I mean, he has a lot of his day one guys. You know what I'm saying? Vucci, Isaac, Fultz, Ross, you know what I'm saying? Cole, Anthony, Okiki. Like, he has a lot of guys that he brought in from day one that are still with him. And I think just being able to add those guys, add positive pieces around them,
I think they
I
having a
think it's going to
problem
be
hearing your
good for him.
color. I'm sorry, they haven't. I think
Damn,
Mike. He said you got to turn his volume on 10 and hear you talk.
uh, okay, my bad, Mike. My bad, Mike. Is it better? Is that better? But anyway, so but I also think he definitely did. He doing good, man. Like real talk. I really think he did a good off season. So we'll see how things go for him. I definitely expect him to be in the playoffs, battling for anywhere between 5 and 8. I think that's where pretty much the range he's gonna fall into. I still think he has some concerns at that point guard position. I think he did add shooting, but having the point guard play between Cole Anthony and Markel Fultz has been kind of inconsistent. So I'm curious to see how they play the season out with those guys to see who will actually kind of, well, both of those guys still be here past the trade deadline this year. I'm curious to see how that'll work out. But, overall, I give him definitely a B, strong B. I give you a B for that, man. Because you ain't really
Okay.
lose nobody.
I gotta agree with that. I agree with the B grade. I'm interested to see what he do with Cole Anthony and folks too. Just because that's been a struggle. That's been a struggle for him. And he may try a lot more CJ at the one. Steph Curry can probably play the one at times for him too. So I agree with the
Mm-hmm.
B. I don't think he got worse. I think it remains to be seen how the shooting's going to help him. So
Mm-hmm.
okay, B for the Magic. B for the Magic. Next up, we got them
Mm-hmm.
Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, my God.
Them Brooklyn Nets. So before the off season, honestly, at the end of the day, I partly commend them just because I didn't expect all three of the big time guys to stay, but it definitely came at a cost. It came at a cost. I mean, these three guys between Harden, KD, and Irving are making basically 120 every year or more.
Mm-hmm.
Just them
Mm-hmm.
three. I mean, the salary cap itself is like like what, 109, 114 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
them three by themselves are over the salary cap, over the salary
Mm-hmm.
cap. So they're gonna have some interesting issues moving forward, just because they got Joe Harris locked in for 2 more years. He's gonna have to figure out, how important Harris is, because that could potentially really mess up. Like if you look at the rest of his depth, you got these three, Joe Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got minimum guy Biombo, minimum guy Campaign, minimum guy Valentine, minimum guy Javante Green, minimum guy William Gabriel, minimum guy John Henson,
Who?
minimum guy
Sheesh.
Chiozo, minimum guy Damian Dotson, minimum guy Jonathan Motley, minimum
Got
guy
that boy got
Quindary Witherspoon, and
got that Iowa energy on his damn team.
so it's literally these four and the boys. It's gonna be interesting to see what Brooklyn do. I think he had at a certain point. I think Brooklyn had a couple choices they could make. They could have, and I think partly it was some issues that happened on the Kyrie side. I think it's a lot of issues with Kyrie in the front office. Kyrie had a deal already in place with Brooklyn, and Brooklyn was like, no, but Kyrie, got the lawyers on him, so they locked in the deal right here. That's why Kyrie making 200 mil making 200
Sheesh.
mil over the next 5 years, 200 plus mil. But ideally, if I was him, if I was in his position, I would have brought back two out of three guys. Um, and whoever them two or the three would have been, it would have been what it is. But we got to see how this team plays out the rest of the year, because at this point, it's none of these guys outside of those top four guys are doing anything in a competitive, especially in a playoff series. So it's gonna be interesting to see, like,
Mm-hmm.
if he moves Joe Harris around, I don't think they had any draft picks either that they kept on their team.
Mm,
No draft picks from last year, so they didn't get anybody younger necessarily either. And you got Harden
mm,
33, KD 34, Kyrie 30.
mm,
Harden and KD, they could hit a decline. I think they already declined a little bit from last year. So, what you
mm.
think, Carlo?
Honestly, the only positive is the fact that he brought back three guys and everything else went to hell. Those contracts are absolutely horrendous. I can't agree with you more. I would have brought back two guys just to kind of keep my flexibility. But even going back forth the previous year, I mean, this team has, let's keep it real, this team is underachieved. To have James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving, the only thing that you should be focused on is championship. And I think they have had a conference finals appearance and then they got put out in the conference semifinals. So with that being said, having three guys, 391s on your team, and then at this point, their regression is going to take place, and to lock them in, to have KD at 39, Harden at 38, Kyrie at 35, and absolutely no flexibility, that's financial suicide for a franchise. And the fact that this core group of guys, I mean, literally, I'd rather have damn Penny Mike Miller little high school team and some of these guys. I mean, it's bad. I mean, it's really bad. And honestly, you can't. And the thing about it is, you locked in to these guys for at least this season. You can't move any of them to kind of balance out your debt. The only person that's movable is Joe Harris. But only that, when in free agency, you can't really filter out and get good talent, because you're only restricted to minimum guys. So you got to find the best minimum guys you possibly can find to offset the minimum guys that you kind of have, but that's not an upgrade. That's a lateral move. So with that being said, it was extremely disheartening, being honest with you. Just from a standpoint, if it was me, probably the year before, I would have probably moved one of them guys at the trade deadline last year. Just so I went and would have just honed in one of those two guys, because whoever's my key priority guy, top two guys, boom, whoever the third guy is, no matter what you feel you're comfortable with, that's the guy I would have moved last year to kind of complement and build around my two core guys versus being in the position I'm in right now. Because no player options, no team options, just 5 years, and you talking about year 5, you playing these guys 160 million almost? Just three guys?
You got to
That's
tell
tough.
Brandon
That's
Marshall that
tough.
too. Brandon Marshall don't believe
Man,
NBA players getting guaranteed money out here. So,
right, man.
so
B. Marshall, shout out to Brandon Marshall, man. Yeah, this is crazy, crazy. So,
and one other thing to point out, they have a pick swap with the Rockets for this year, which Rockets get the best of the pick. So most likely Rockets keep their pick and Nets will have a late first this year, but then they don't have a first
mm,
round pick again until 2026.
Jesus,
So they're in a tough spot. I don't know where kind of where they may go, but it's kind of like a championship or die situation for them this year.
literally.
Just because after this year, those guys are going to get decline. Harden going to be 34, getting to 35. KD going to be 35. Kyrie should still be okay, but your two main pieces are going to be getting old. So, uh,
Wait a minute, Diz. This one thing I did not know. All three of these guys have no trade clauses, so you can't
wait a
even
minute, wait,
trade
wait,
them.
wait.
All three guys have no trade clauses.
Mm, well, no trade clause on all three.
All three.
Well, what we going cause we got you resigned Harden 5 years, 241, KD 5 years, 232, Kyrie 5 years, 229. No trade clause. So if you can't move them, um, I
We'll
think
figure something out.
yeah, we'll fit. And I think you said the one guy you said you definitely didn't sign was Kyrie. It may open you up to
Mhm.
sign, be able to move him if you got to move him next year or something like that.
Yeah, no trade clause
But
doesn't mean the person cannot be traded. It means that they have to agree to be traded.
well, Mike said he got a life sentence.
Life sentence.
So yeah,
That's with no trade clause,
with
man.
that man, even I mean the Nets brought a lot of guys back, but I'm gonna have to get that's. I think this is a bad bad financial situation right here. Um,
Mm,
it's really tough. If it wasn't for the rating of the players, it would probably have to be a worse grade. But considering he did bring
mm.
back enough talent, I'm gonna go with a C minus. I'm gonna go with a C minus D, C minus slash D.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm going with an absolute D minus. Like it was. This is horrible. I'm sorry. There's no excuse. I can't validate it because, granted, bringing up back those three guys is fine, but the fact that the rest of the roster is absolutely horrendous, I cannot. I mean, because one thing we're not talking about, he lost Nicholas Claxton. You know how good Nicholas Claxton was for them boys
Oh
last
yeah, I
year?
forgot about that.
You know
I
what I'm
forgot
saying?
about that.
Claxton was the one young piece you had that I can kind of build around this guy, and he's gone. You know what I'm saying? The fact that he's not there, like you just let him go. Like it's not that's not good. That's not you can't lose the young talent to keep the old talent. Like it don't work that way. So I gotta give him a D minus, man. I'm sorry.
Okay, okay. I think that's a fair assessment. I think averaging out that's a D overall. C minus
Mm,
D or you gave him a what D plus D minus.
mm,
Yep.
mm.
So okay. Next up, the Denver Nuggets. The
Bum,
Denver
bum, bum,
Nuggets.
bum, 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 bum.
So this team had some controversy last year on the Nikola Jokic trade, moving Jokic to Indiana for Miles Turner and T.J. Warren. T.J. Warren is not with the team anymore. He hit the market. Um, and as of today, what the key things that the Nuggets did, go to the transaction report right quick. Go down to the Nuggets, and they resigned Bobo. They resigned Bobo to who was this was considered a key piece um, in last
Mm-hmm.
year's series who was injured. He was playing, but he was hurt. So he felt bringing Bobo back, was a big need, and he signed us a 3 year, 53 mil. He also signed MPJ, who was he was one of the key free agents out there. He was restricted, but he was ended up keeping him. He matched the offer, 4 years, 121 mil for MPJ. So that's solid. He also brought in his key acquisitions were Winslow. Outside of the guys he signed Justice Winslow, 3 years, 28 mil. DJ Wilson to a minimum deal. Hazanja at a minimum deal. Glenn Robinson III, minimum deal. Derrick Rose to a minimum deal. And Edmund Sumner to a minimum deal. Um, so let me go back to this was a team. I mean, I played him. I think he struggled with depth last year, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure. Oh, so I forgot to add. These were this was a good pickup. Adrian Griffin Jr. in the draft. He got him
Mm-hmm.
late in the draft, 26 pick. But this guy, he can play. I like his game. He's 6'7", 2'3", 97 driving layup, 83-point shot. He can handle the ball a little bit. Overall, he's a pretty
Mm-hmm.
good player. So that was a solid pickup. I would have to give, a good draft grade easily for that pickup.
Mm-hmm.
But he has an interesting situation, though. He wasn't able to really maximize his spending like some of the cap he had because he had to lock in MPJ and Bo, within the first couple of days, I think. Definitely
Mm-hmm.
MPJ. So that kind of, messed with his cap room a little bit for the offseason. So he wasn't able to bring in a big piece, to complement MPJ and Murray. But
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a GM who thinks he doesn't even need that big piece. He did make an offer for Zach LaVine, and consider he could have had Murray, LaVine, and MPJ. That would have been a much scarier team going into the year three, for that team.
Mm-hmm.
So, overall, I think he had a decent offseason, but I think it's going to be interesting how this team looks moving forward, considering they still move Jokic, and right now it's not looking like moving Jokic has helped him.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yo
Yeah.
go.
That's a fair assessment. Honestly, I think this is honestly the complete opposite of what the Brooklyn Nets did. What I mean by that is the Brooklyn Nets kept their core guys at the expense of not being able to add anything around them. the Denver Nuggets kept their core guys while also adding other things around them. So to be able to get MPJ at 24 and Bobo at 23 and bringing those guys back by whatever cost, and Bobo honestly having a 2+1 with that third year being a team option, keeps their flexibility because that same year that Bobo has a team option will also be the last year Jamal Murray's deal. So you can pick that team option up and it gives you more flexibility going into, year 4 of that contract or year 3 of that contract and kind of really give yourself all the odds for like in the free agency in 2025. So thinking ahead, I think was a good move for them. I like Justice Winslow. I really think that he's a solid 3-and-D guy. To be able to play for him, I think he's definitely an upgrade over Danny Green. Everything he wanted from Danny Green to do defensively, Justice Winslow does. But everything Danny Green did offensively as far as perimeter shooting, Justin Winslow would not bring that at all. So it's going to be interesting to see how Justin Winslow can be that Swiss Army knife. But I expect Justice Winslow to kind of play more point forward and allow Jamal Murray to play more off ball, which is something he tried to do a lot with R.J. Hampton. But R.J. Hampton, of course, also being a guy who's not a great perimeter shooter. So I think that they'll be heavily reliant on MPJ and Jamal Murray, and I would say probably third Miles Turner to really kind of be those perimeter guys to shoot the three. And I think outside of that, it's going to be kind of, a limited offensive execution, so to speak, as in the words of a Chris Kelly. So I think it's going to be interesting to see. I think that overall he does have more depth. I'm just curious to see how all that depth plays out. Adrian Griffin is pretty solid, but at the same time, is he playing more? I think he'll be behind the bench playing both guard and small forward positions. And I think this will also allow, like Derrick Rose, I think he would be a nice little backup point guard for him as well. They could probably get Jamal Murray a little bit more break, but at the same time, we'll see how that goes. Because at the end of the day, with the Denver Nuggets, it's all about the playoffs. If he's not getting to the championship, if they're not getting there, then everything goes back to the Jokic trade. No matter what happens, everything will go back to that trade. Every time there's an underachievement, it'll go back to trading by far one of the top 2 big men on the game. It's not even enough of a discussion from that center standpoint. Embiid and Jokic, it's not even close. So to get rid of him and to kind of commit to now really only Miles Turner, who's also can leave in the offseason because this is the last year of his deal. And I see you going over Jokic. I mean, look at that right there. I mean, a guy with 17 badges and absolutely,
So that's
it's
go
freaking
bad.
amazing.
Yeah, Jokic. I mean, Jokic. I mean, it's a game that's is so iffy at times. Having a guy that's this good, he can say he's not an elite shooter, but he got a 77 open three. But he's 7 feet with good ball handling, 93 pass accuracy. A lot of those passes you make with a big in this game, causes your player to jump up a lot. That ain't happening with Jokic. His playmaking
Right,
abilities and stuff like that. Go break starter, go needle threader. Like he was a real deal. So,
right.
you know, Mike said he'll take him this offseason. Yeah, Fanoki's gonna be a free agent this offseason too.
He
So,
is. He is. So that's gonna be
so,
curious to see how that works out.
yep. So, what's your grade? Nuggets grade?
He brought back 2 guys. He lost T.J. Warren, who was technically a quote a big acquisition. Will Barnes gone. Gary Harris is gone. Um, but like I said, he pretty much. I think the depth is okay, but I think it's more so unproven at this point. I mean, DJ Wilson is okay. Glenn Robinson third junior is okay. Hazanya's okay. So I'll give him a C plus. I give him a C plus
Yep.
because he kept his 2 main guys C plus.
Okay. Yeah, I think C plus B minus. Um, I agree. I think that's about right. C plus B minus for him. I think, him keeping those 2 main guys was a big piece. I think the biggest thing though is gonna figure out whether or not, like you said, it's about the playoffs. It's not a matter of how many games this user can win. It's just what they do come playoff time. So I think that's
Absolutely.
so I think that's good. Okay. Next up, so we got Pelicans left, we got Spurs, Suns, the Supersonics, and the Wizards.
Sheesh.
So
Boy, yeah.
do you want to take a break and come back in the afternoon, finish out the last 4 teams, or you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
kind of
We'll take a look. We can take a break, bro. Let's take a break
okay? So
and
we'll
come back for the second half.
Yep. So we'll be back with let's see, we got about 5 more teams, 5 or 6 more teams to do, and we'll take a quick
Um,
break. Thank y'all for joining.
Appreciate
Appreciate
y'all.
it. Appreciate y'all, and we'll be back.
Yes, sir.